And now they went one step further. We heard about a case this summer where the police officer made an agreement with a tenant to leave at a certain date, which is now the police is like a judge and is taking the role of a judge to kick a tenant out, this is totally unacceptable. And I called the policeman, and they said they found a way to justify their work. So I had to go higher. I had to go to the City of Montreal elected officials, and they said, "Whoa, that's not acceptable at all." So now we're going into that circle of 2 or 3 years of talking and discussion, and we're going to end up with a protocol in 2 or 3 years. And another thing is, when a landlord will change the locks and not permitting the tenant to come back in his apartment, then the police has to intervene to let the tenant get back in its apartment, and still they have the non-intervention procedure right now. So they are acting in favor of gentrification because the people that are getting kicked out of their apartments are poor people in neighborhoods that are heavily gentrified because the owners want to make a quick profit and get rid of their low-income tenants and jack up the rents. Well, you know the story, okay? So in that kind of work they do, they are agents of gentrification, and I totally support defund the police because I don't want them acting in that stuff. There are social workers, there are community workers, there are many people acting in the neighborhoods. We have all kinds of coalitions and table de quartier and whatever to go to remedy this situation, and we are paid very low, much lower than police people. We are overworked, overloaded, underpaid, and we see now that millions of bucks are going to go to the police and see the kind of work they do. So I totally support the idea of defund the police. I think it's going to help low-income tenants. It's going to help keep people in their neighborhoods, and at least we're going to do a better work trying to fight gentrification if the police doesn't get in the way. So this is my idea. If you have any other examples you would like to share with me, this will help me with this idea, have a better validation of this idea. So really, I want to have a discussion going if you would like, or intervene with what Bruno said. It would be fantastic. So there you go.
Well, in terms of police interventions, I'm not sure if it's the same thing you spoke about. You spoke of Généreux, but I documented the police in the eviction of Les Lofts Moreau in Hochelaga near Ontario and Prefontaine. That was September 2013. So I don't know if that's what you were talking about, or a different case, or...
It's a different case, but you're talking about Moreau, the artist, and tenants were living in their own artist loft, and the police had a role here in vider the whole place. Yeah. So there are many cases. Thank you for that. That's another case. At the beginning of the 2000s, there were also squat. I don't know if you remember. It was on the east end of Montreal. Prefontaine Square or something like that, and the police had a role there in arresting the squatters that were asking for more social housing. So there you go. Here's another example of police being agents to facilitate gentrification. Questions or comments? I'm sure it's not easy to speak out, but if you have any idea about, or anything that's not even related, but about gentrification, if you have things that, yes.
Comment les gens peuvent s'impliquer dans des luttes dans leur quartier contre la gentrification? C'est comme nouveau pour eux. Anglais, français, whatever.
Okay. So how can people s'impliquer in the in the gentrification resistance. Well, first of all, the housing committees are kind of the hubs where they know everybody on the territory and the arrondissement, the neighborhood. They know what's going on. Sometimes it's different from Hochelaga, is different from Ahuntsic, from the Petite Patrie, from the West End. So every local housing committee can help you in understanding the situation and participating in different kind of actions we do. If you're ready now, on next Friday, September 16, we're going to Quebec City. There are buses and it's all free. We're going there to have a big protest against the inaction of the Quebec government concerning all the rights of tenants in the social housing. It's a disaster. And it's the first manifestation where Frappru and Reclac will be together. It's historic. We don't agree on many things, but we're going to go and be together on next Friday. So if you want to come with us, just call your local housing committee. We meet at Square Berry at 7:30 in the morning on Friday. Berry Camp there on Friday 16th, 7:30 a.m. The bus leaves. So be there, and we'll go to Quebec. It's all free. But there are many other ways to participate. And one way that I like, but this is not something that the housing committees would encourage me to say, but is to keep it ugly. Okay, because one reason why things are gentrified, we have all these nice cafes and all nice stuff and green alleys and all that. So it's all good, but it brings speculators and promoters. They sniff those things and they start kicking tenants out. They are the first ones who seize the opportunities. That's what they call it, the potential of profit. So one way you can try to ease things is to keep it ugly. So we keep tenants in our neighborhoods. But really, call your local housing committees. They are very good in action and helping tenants out. Yeah.
And there's this queer festival coming up called Perversity. The dates are not yet announced, but I know I want to do. I want to start a committee on social housing and the future of the village, as there's definitely something going on with the village, and there's an opportunity there with all the constructions being done. There's a lot of plea from citizens and grassroots groups, I think, to take our spot and change things and make sure that it doesn't go ugly. Well, no, that it doesn't go bad for people, for low-income people. That's what I was wanting. Not the ugly, like you say, but that it doesn't go bad for us. I think there's and so dates are not announced yet, but at Perversity I'm planning to do that to help try to start a new group, queer, non-queer, to talk about the village.
Just going to share a little story to show how gentrification isn't the only place where cops are no help in housing situations. So I used to live in a multi-bedroom house. My name was on the lease, and at one point we got this roommate who was so abusive and dangerous that none of us could live there anymore. And so I had to stay at a friend's place. I called the cops to try and see what we could do, and they said you have to get the landlord to get him out. The landlord was in another country, so that didn't really help. And then there was this one squabble that someone else who was on the lease had with this guy, and this guy decided to call the cops saying that the guy whose name was on the lease had a gun, which he did not have a gun. But the police showed up anyway. They went inside, talked to the guy, and said that, yeah, the call was obviously bogus. Yeah, the call was obviously bogus, but this guy whose name was on the lease, the police told him you shouldn't come here again. Otherwise, we could charge you with like harassment or breaking and entering or something. Like, don't leave it like that.
Yes, this is a very big issue. Take, for instance, elder people that live with a family person, but that family person is abusive. This happens all the time, and it's the non-official statistics say that 60% of elder person living with a family member are abused. That's a lot. So it's a super big problem. And what the cops are saying to us, there's nothing we can do. It has to be criminalized. Now imagine, you're an old person, you live with an abusive person of your family, say your son or whatever, your uncle, whatever. That person abuses you, it's impossible to criminalize that situation. You're not going to go to court to get that person kicked out. Imagine your life for the next 6 months. So it doesn't happen. So this is another example, the same example. I have many other examples of what you are saying, where there are abusive relationships in an apartment, and it's documented and we have proof. The police say we're not going to intervene. And somehow, I think it's because they don't understand, because all the community workers, everyone that's involved in housing, they understand the situation. So somehow, I think they have too much power. That's why they don't understand. They just apply their own power, and that's a problem.
In a somewhat related issue, I find, like, you have this slogan that the hard left protesters say, "La police au service des riches," and I'll stop there. But basically, we're talking about the police essentially being on the side of les riches, the business owners. They're not really there to help the average citizen, in my view. What do you have to say about that?
So, police is on the service of rich people. I have another example. There was a maison de chambre, I don't know how you call it in English.
Housing.
Boarding house.
Rooming
Yeah.
house.
So there was a boarding house with 25 very, very fragile and vulnerable person living there. Mostly old people, old men, and having health issues and mental health issues. Got bought by a promoter, and the promoter started doing pressure to kick out all 25 tenants. And so we went to the socio-communautaire police. So those are agents within the police body which are supposed to be helpful to the community. So we went to them and we said, hey, on 1st of July, he's going to kick out the 25 tenants. And he told them, you're on the streets. And we went with CLSC staff, and we had a big bunch of people that were aware of this situation. And the police said, there's nothing we can do. This is civil litigation. But it's not civil litigation, it's illegal. Okay? That is the only case where it turned out good, because the community got it, bought back the boarding house. So now it's a social housing right now. Well, it's in the process of being. So there was it turned out good. But if on the 1st of July they didn't buy it back, the 25 tenants would have been on the streets. And so there are many other examples I could tell you from the point of view of the tenants. That's my specialty. But it's exactly what you say. They are on the service of the rich people. But the community, the social workers of the police station were agreed with us, but said our colleagues will not do it. And I have other situations I could tell you where the social workers within the police, they understand that they are facing a very, very strong prejudice against poor that is within the police. I knew a woman that was organizing the police de proximity police. About 10 years ago, as PVM was trying to change their habits and being more towards the communities and all that. So they hired that person to make a plan d'action in order to make it that the police would work towards the communities. And after 2 years, that person, elle a démissionné. She just quit her job because she said it's just not going to work because there are too much prejudice within the police. Now, I would like the police to change, but I think we have to face something. If we gave them more money with more police, with more guns, they're not going to change. It's going to harden that that stereotype that they always have against poor persons.
How do you unite like people who own their homes and apartments with tenants against the police and gentrification?
Well, how do you? Well, I know a lot of homeowners, which are either they work in housing committees or they come to our manifestation, or they somehow they take part in the actions to change the law. I think that's the best, maybe, or a really good thing they can do is to take part in the actions and even communicate. Even say, as a homeowner, I think that the tenants are right in asking more rights. I helped Françoise David in adopting the law that protect older tenants in their apartments against eviction. And one thing that was game changing is a very, very known homeowner that said, "I'm with the bill. I'm with that change of law." So I think, homeowners can be more outspoken and take part in the action to help tenants' rights and social housing, but both. Remember that we really need both. So more social housing, but better tenants' rights, because tenants are at risk of losing their homes if nothing changes. Maybe if you take the mic.
So I completely understand what you're saying about keeping things ugly and the history of like playgrounds leading to criminalization and gentrification, but it also sounds like that means that to avoid gentrification, we have to avoid the creation of public spaces, of having neighborhoods that people want to spend time in. So is there a way that we can be against gentrification and also make neighborhoods communal spaces with public spaces in them?
Yes, I think I was more provocative. When I said keep it ugly, I was being provocative. I was just trying to make people see the problem with having nice spaces, nice cafes, green alleys and all that. Because, as I said, promoters can sniff out the potential of profit they can make in these situations. So in creating public spaces, the community has to ask for places for everyone. They have to ask for places for community organizations, homeless people, indigenous people, queer people, and not just for profit, not just for commerce, not just for selling stuff. So it's really that. And like in Petite Patrie, where I used to work, there was a green organization, environmentalists. They understood with me that we're not going to help the community if we don't do ecological politics, écologie politique. So we're going to have green issues, but political green issues that take into account what's happening to the poor persons. So thank you for your questions, because it helped me.
There's in the village, I'll call it a kind of an experiment. They transformed the art gallery that was at the corner of Adadigan and St. Catherine into a public place. Place is not completely done, so it's half ugly right now, as the place is not completely done. But it do bring that question of like, that was the plan of like, there needs to be a public place in the village, so people can do activities, and it's a place where there's fake grass because the soil is contaminated, so there can't be anything done right away.